to the next Vajra Statement in the Gongchik. We should do at least a little of that, right? 422. So this is the start of a section, the section on how to do, how to greatly accumulate merit and then dedicating this merit. Remember that these statements are discussed under the chapter on the Bodhisattva training. And so emphasizing that, we're not talking about ordinary beings accumulating merit. Ordinary beings accumulating merit, that merit ripens into ordinary happiness, ordinary pleasures, ordinary well-being. And yes, according to these karmic teachings, it says that our lack of ordinary leisure is because of the obstacles of negative karma. And so even for ordinary mundane forms of leisure and happiness and freedom from illness and this and that, right? Without the ordinary accumulation of merit, you will not be able to experience satisfaction. But here, you have to remember, we're not talking about that kind of merit and that kind of satisfaction. Here we're talking about, in the task of becoming Buddhas, which is what we have committed to doing, we really need skillful ways, powerful ways to speed up the accumulation of merit. And here, merit as fuel, merit as sustenance that we need for the journey of the Bodhisattva path. So it's that kind of merit, If we're still thinking of ordinary merit and ordinary pleasure and ordinary good situation, then we are still stuck, We're not practicing the Bodhisattva vehicle. Elsewhere, Kyobpa Rinpoche says, people debate so much and say, oh, this teaching is lesser vehicle, this teaching is greater vehicle, oh, this practice is lesser vehicle, oh, this practice is great vehicle. And he says, insofar as the Buddha's teachings and the practices that the Buddha gave, they actually don't have, these divisions, lesser or greater. He says lesser or greater depends on the individual. Yeah, an individual with a very limited motivation, a very limited kind of capacity, when they practice avoiding the 10 non-virtues, then it's a Hinayana, a lesser vehicle practice. But the same 10 non-virtues now being avoided by someone who is thinking not just their own situation, not just thinking about what they are capable of, but somehow having this big mind and say, no, I'm capable of carrying the burden of all beings and I'm committed to carrying that burden. Now this person, when they avoid the 10 non-virtues, the effect is different. And now it has become the fruit of the great vehicle. And the same 10 non-virtues being now avoided, being now given up by someone practicing with the Vajrayana understanding. And it says the results manifest very instantaneously. And for it to be instantaneous, it requires that there is powerful wisdom at work. and powerful wisdom don't fall from the sky. It's something that we have to cultivate. And so even with our mouth, we say, I'm practicing Vajrayana, I'm practicing Vajrayana, or even in the body, we may think, this water offering, oh, this is Vajrayana, or, these like Bumba, prayer wheel, mala, this, that, oh, this is Vajrayana. But, Kyobpa Rinpoche says, that's not Vajrayana. Superficially, it's Vajrayana, but it's not Vajrayana. What makes something Vajrayana is not these things. These are just incidental, cultural, historical elements that flourish when the Vajrayana mindset, the Vajrayana principle is broadly taught, coincided with a time when, these kinds of objects become common. So then it uses these kinds of objects and these kinds of practices. But the real, whether it's lesser vehicle, greater vehicle, indestructible vehicle, that all depends on the one who is practicing. So here, it's not, again, the ordinary accumulating of merit. It's the accumulating of merit in the context of the Bodhisattva path as a path of, in the last Vajra statement, it says as the path of, or two Vajra statements back, the two accumulations inseparable on the ground level, on the path level, and the fruition level. And in order to practice that kind of accumulation, what do we need to do? So here, it says 422. Jigten Sumgon maintains that ownership is a skillful means to gather the accumulations of merit and wisdom. According to the translator here. So let's look at Khenpo Kunpal's commentary. He says, if one has no ownership of things, even if one gives them away, it will not become an antidote to stinginess and self-grasping. See, now we understand, the real purpose of cultivating giving or generosity. I mean, it might sound a little strange, some of us might be a little uncomfortable with this, but it's okay, right? You don't need to be immediately comfortable with everything you hear about the Dharma. A little bit of discomfort might be able to help us to gain deeper understanding. But what it's saying here is like, when we engage in giving, actually, it's not even really to solve the problem of lack of the other people. I know, it sounds a little selfish. When you practice giving or generosity, it says the main point here isn't about solving the problem of lack, the problem of not having of the others. So when you give someone food, when you give someone drink, when you give someone money, when you give someone housing, it says it's not even about whether you are solving their problems of not having housing, not having clothing, not having food. First of all, it is about you overcoming stinginess, overcoming tight fist. So stinginess is ultimately related to not being able to let go. Tight-fisted, as we say in English. And when you're tight-fisted, not only is it very exhausting, it takes a lot of energy to maintain this, but it also means, you can't receive anything. Anyone giving you anything, you're not willing to release, Your heart is not willing to release, nothing can go in. Like this. So here it says, if one has no ownership of things, even if one gives them away, it will not become an antidote to stinginess and self-grasping. So this is like saying, if you are so rich and you don't care about the things that you have, people say, can I have that? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. This is not actually generosity. This is, you have so much, you don't even know what to do with it. But this is not practice of the generosity that we're talking about here. The generosity that we're talking about here is an antidote to stinginess and ultimately self-grasping. So in order for that, it says, then you need to have ownership. And so that means you begin by paying attention to where are you most unwilling to give? And those are where you have the strongest sense of ownership. And it's with regards to that you need to cultivate giving. So here it says, therefore, Jigten Sumgon maintains that ownership is a skillful means to gather the accumulations of merit and wisdom. It is like Shantideva said, if I mentally take up all that is not owned at all by anyone and excellently offer it to the sage, the supreme among persons, and his children, supreme and compassionate recipients of these offerings, think of me with love and accept these offerings of mine. And this is in that chapter on taking hold of bodhicitta, taking hold of the bodhicitta vow. Before generating the vow, Shantideva says you should bring together all this merit. And one way to bring together this merit is to look out there and see, all the things that are not particularly owned by anyone. You could say that it's owned by the state, it's owned by the government, or it's just nature. It's owned by the public. It says, you think now I take all of this, now it's mine. And give. And so this is a skillful way. This is a skillful method. So especially like, if you're sitting in the car and someone else is driving, you're going to somewhere beautiful, somewhere new. Or you're going to the shopping mall, especially if you like. If you don't like going to the shopping mall, it's a little harder. But if you like going to the shopping mall, and then you happen to be in the shopping mall, then you can think, all of this is mine. Here you're not so much creating new graspings, but you are acknowledging your graspings. Say, all of this, mine. Then you feel, yes, mine. Now I'm going to give. Now I'm going to give. Then it becomes an antidote to your grasping. So the water offering for Jambala, water is a symbol of all the things that we are most attached to. We hand over. We give. We surrender. We let go. Like water. We let go. And let these waters flow into the rivers into the ocean. Let them go. When you let them go, you never lose them, they say. That's another skillful way of looking at it and how to train with. And so giving is only in the context of bodhisattva training. Then giving is an antidote. It's a cure for stinginess, for self-grasping. So give, especially what we are grasping the strongest. And often those are causes of suffering. We just don't recognize. Our stubbornness, our rigid mind, our self-pitying minds. Now give, So this is a skillful way. Like you don't have to judge. You don't have to judge these things. You don't have to say, oh, I'm bad, I'm a Dharma practitioner, I still have these things. No. Now think of it as, these things that I grasp, these things that I hold on to so tightly is because I don't know any better. Now I give. So here is a different kind of, it's not the kind of giving where you say, this is terrible, I throw it away. There are different methods, to overcome self-grasping and attachment. In other methods, it is about looking at ultimately how dangerous and yucky and no reason to be desirable, so we let go. So that's one kind of giving. Here is training with also giving, but a different kind. So if we do both, we can balance the way in which we practice giving out self-grasping. Sometimes using a way that highlights the undesirable nature of what we grasp at. Sometimes we train in giving by emphasizing how good it is to give to others. But both is to overcome stinginess and self-grasping. So Jigten Sumgon here teaches, you own all of it first. So elsewhere he says, if you know how to use your self-grasping, then even this self-grasping can become now an ingredient in becoming free from self-grasping. So this is Vajra Statement 22. So this morning we will end here.